All right. Oh, okay.
Hello again.
Week 45.
Week 45. This was an awesome week. I was looking forward to this.
This was kind of one of the things when we bought the van. I kind of thought, I want to buy the van I want to buy a van that we can drive onto Fraser Island. 4-wheel drive, on the sand.
One of the only sand islands in the world?
Yeah, it's big. How big is it? It's over 170, about 160 k's kind of, really, isn't it, from tip to tip? Maybe more, maybe, yeah,
and
maybe
we should
more.
Use the Aboriginal name now because it has
K'gari.
changed to I think you just say Gari though.
Gari. Okay, yeah, Gari. Yeah, so it was Fraser Island, now it's Gari, which is the traditional Aboriginal name for the island. So what it was being known as for paradise,
which is apt, I think.
Yeah, it is apt.
It is
yeah,
paradise.
it's beautiful. But we stopped off at Rainbow Beach, which is a nice little township right on the water.
I like Rainbow Beach better than Noosa, I'm going to say. Just controversial, I know, but I'm putting it out there.
Okay.
I just thought, I don't know, it's smaller.
Well, it's still more sort of beach, sort of, I guess, yeah, it's more beach township, whereas Noosa, like you say, it is a bit like South Yarra on the beach.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of shops and that sort of thing. But anyway, we digress.
Yep.
So that was really nice. We went for a walk along the beach down there and had a bit of a look around, and then had a bit of lunch. And
then made our way to Inskip Point.
Yep.
So the thing with Fraser is you have to check your tides and your tidal times before you go, because you're driving along the beach. You want to make sure you're up off.
So it's low tide. A couple of hours either side of low tide.
So there's different areas where you can't actually cross.
You can still drive around, but then you've got to go inland. So when you come off the ferry, if it's high tide, you just got to come off and drive straight inland,
which takes a bit longer.
Takes a bit longer.
Quite a bit longer, as we found out.
Yeah. But that's fine.
So we had the barge to us.
Yeah, the ferry. So you can catch ferry across from Inskip, or also from Hervey Bay.
Yeah.
But we chose Inskip, which is the southern point of Fraser you come onto, and then you've got to drive up to get where you're going. So we drove inland initially, and then came back out onto the sand and drove up on the sand.
Much easier.
Much easier on the sand.
Much easier on the beach.
Just
because it's compacted sand.
Yep. If you got the room, just stick to the beach and drive up. But got to Eli Creek.
Eli Creek's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's a lovely little spot. A nice little walk. Yep.
So we weren't in our bathers. It wasn't really that warm, but you can just kind of float down. It's like a little stream that floats out into the ocean that you can float down. A lot of people were on their pool toys, but we walked through it, and it's not too deep, although I had rolled up jeans on and they were wet at the bottom. But but it was worth it, totally worth it. But you also had to save someone's shoe from a dingo.
Ran off with a shoe, so I gave chase, and we got it back. Really, the dingo decided it had enough. Didn't really want the shoe, so dropped it. But that's all right.
But there are a few dingoes on Fraser Island, and so they will warn you about the dingoes. We didn't find they were a problem, but there were quite a few there, and I'm always a bit nervous around them.
Well,
so just keep a distance. Oh no, I lied.
There was a problem.
There was an issue with
the dingo.
The dingo.
But we'll get to that, right? So what happened? Well, no. So from Eli Creek, we drive up. We had a two nights booked at Mahino. It's pretty big. All the campsites are pretty big, so we wanted to be near the shipwreck, but we sort of parked at the furthest point away, which made it a long walk.
A very long walk, and you wanted to go at sunset.
I want to go at sunset, so we got set up and went for a walk to Mahino shipwreck, and then came back. And as we were coming back, luckily we were able to retrace our own footsteps, so we could work out where to get back to our campsite, because it was pretty dark.
And we're trying to avoid people driving up the beach. It's fair to say on Fraser, not many people walk anywhere. Everyone just drives in their car along the beach.
We found it.
Like to walk.
We got there in the end, and came back, and that's when it's fair to say COVID hit me.
Well, it had hit you before, and you just hadn't quite realised.
Yeah, it's kind of babies. So I started to succumb to the fevers and the chills and that, and But that night,
a whole day, the whole next day,
was right off. I couldn't lift my head off the ground. I was
couldn't
shattered.
move.
Yeah.
So
But
somehow I miraculously escaped it.
yeah, he was
Despite
sleeping
being
in a
in a
small
tiny little
van.
van,
Yeah,
did not.
we were going to sleep in the
Better at
tent,
washing
weren't
my
we?
hands than you.
But we couldn't sleep in the tent
No.
because we opened the tent up to find our tent, which is less than 12 months old. The elastic inside the poles has snapped on both of them somehow.
The poles.
So
do not buy a Coleman
do
tent.
not. Oh, Coleman. Anyway,
Not a
we'll get to
great-
that later. Yeah.
No, that's all we need to say on that.
Mm.
Don't buy a Coleman tent because they're shit. We already had taken it back once, and then the second time,
Yeah.
the second one damaged within 12 months.
I'm sure they'll
So-
replace it. I'm sure they'll replace it. But so the dingo, I woke up during the night to find the dingo chewing away at my solar panel, which was on the ground. I don't know why it was eating my solar panel, but it was. So yeah, dingoes weren't harmless. They took their toll.
Have a thing for solar panels.
Yeah.
Dingo ate your solar panel. But the solar panel does still work.
Yeah, it's solar
it's
panels.
okay.
If anything, it might actually work a little bit better. I don't really know, but anyway. So the next day was a write-off, and then we got up and the day after that, I still was struggling, but we had to pack up and make our way up to our second campsite, which was up north at Waddy Point. So
luckily on Fraser where we were, there really wasn't anyone around. So
no, it's camping.
You
You're kind of
didn't
isolated.
see
Yeah.
anyone, and
And you can
know,
stay away from people, and which is what we did. We just stayed away.
We stopped in at Champagne Pools, but you were able to
Yeah,
stay
just
away
socially
from,
distance and keep away from people.
people, and there was no one around
Yeah.
kind of where we were, so that was okay. So we're able to have a look. And then Waddy Point, which is, so there's facilities at Waddy Point, but not at Mahino Shipwreck campsite.
Yep.
And you're right on the beach, as you are everywhere really at Fraser. But we hadn't been, so we've been to Fraser Island before and been to all the other sites, but not to Waddy Point. And that was really lovely.
It's really nice. Yeah, it was great.
There's a huge sand dune there. It was
Yep.
pretty cool.
Yeah, so we walked out to the point. The point around the rocks is absolutely
that's
lovely. And we saw
beautiful.
whales from the rocks.
And how cool was it? Just as we were, like on the second or third day we were there, it was really, really windy. That bit was not so cool. But the wind was washing up the swell
foam.
on the ocean. And so it was so intense. It was creating foam. It was like a whirlwind of foam that was then leaving foam footprints all along the grass as we walked away.
Yeah, it was
It
cool.
looked really beautiful. You were laughing at me chasing the foam, but it was very cool.
It was slightly amusing. But anyway.
It looked so cool. And then we tried to walk to Orchard Beach, which so is a little town next to Waddy Point. Again, Aid was not going anywhere. We had our masks. Aid wasn't going into the town, but I was going to go into the town to try and get some medication for him. We thought it was only about a 2-kilometre walk.
It's a long walk.
It was a long walk. And when we got to the turn-off from the beach, it was still about 1.5 k's, wasn't it? And so we decided to...
Well, no, it was more. I think it was about 2.5 k's.
That was too far.
And then it started pouring.
And then
So
on
it
the
was
way
saturated.
back, it poured with rain, and the wind, the strong wind that had been propelling us along the beach on the way to Orchard Point, was suddenly pushing the rain into us as we left. So poor Aid, if it wasn't enough that he had COVID, we then got saturated walking back.
Yep.
You handled it well.
Yeah.
Handled it
Well, I was starting to feel a bit better too then, so that wasn't
Yeah.
too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But because of the wind and the rain, we did end up leaving.
We left a day early. We were going to
Day
stay 3
early.
nights up at Waddy Point, but we got a warning through, like a weather warning through, that there was going to be some terrible wind and rain. So at that point we thought, no, bugger it, let's get out and get off the island.
Yeah.
And we headed into
That'll be next week.
that'll be next week. So.
But it's fair to say, when we got back down, so we had to race down to Inskip Point because, again, tides and times, you've got to try and get off the island. You try and get from one end of the island to the other within 2 hours of low tide. So we were racing down there. At one point, it looked like Wacky Races, as everyone's trying to race to get to the...
Well, the
to
low
the barge
tide wasn't
before-
low because of the wind. It was blowing from offshore, onshore,
Yeah.
and it was just pushing the water right up the beach, and yeah, the water was going right up, and so yeah, it was like, gee, this is, you know, you're meant to have sort of 100 meters, but some points there was only 5 or 10 meters.
Some points you were driving over.
Mm.
Well,
So, well, we got to
we made
the ferry, and yeah,
and it was full.
and it was full this time. There was a lot of other people trying to get off
Trying to
Fraser
do
because
the
it
same
was a nasty couple of days coming. So
Yeah.
we did the right thing getting off there. So, but it was awesome. It was worth the trip. Probably again, it was a bit tougher than we thought, and being hit by COVID probably didn't help.
Yeah.
So,
It was a lot tougher.
yeah,
But well worth it. And if you're up this way,
you have to go to
definitely
Fraser
go to
Island.
Fraser.
It's brilliant. Yeah,
It's the best.
Yeah.
The best.
Yeah. Excellent.
But
All right,
that's it for week 45.
that's it. See you,
next
mate.
week.
Bye.
Bye.